And the Oscar goes to Bosif Gordon-Levitt. Bo, my goodness, with another home run to help them win a game. He's on a roll. They're on a roll. He's the hottest player in baseball, and they might be the hottest team in the American League. But where will that land them in the playoffs? We will discuss and more coming up on Locked On Blue Jays.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Blue Jays. Thanks so much for making us your first listen every day. You can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, Stitcher, Podbean, YouTube, Twitter, and our
Probably
email.
Earwolf. I bet you were on Earwolf.
Okay. Locked On Blue Jays Real at gmail.com. That's REAL. You can find us wherever you're getting your podcasts. He's Matt Bonaparte. I'm Ben Shulman. And the Blue Jays are winners again. They win 3-2 in the series opener versus the Rays. Admittedly, it didn't look great at the start. They committed an error that allowed them to lose the lead, but all three runs come in because of the bat of Bo Bichette with the RBI knock in the fourth inning and then the go-ahead home run in the eighth inning. And Jordan Romano's got that S up. Pretty crazy. I don't even know. It's every game he continues to do this. I don't get how Bo can't stop right now.
Dude, he's a menace. He's an absolute menace, and they need him to be right now. I mean, he is the offense, which is fine, but they will need somebody else to help him. Although Vladdy, 100th double of his career, so that was cool.
Good to see Vlad step up. Because you're right,
totally.
it's a little bit too much of a one-man show right now. But it's okay. They're figuring it out. Because Bo has just been so good. Since August 21st, 21 games. He's hitting .424, 7 home runs, 18 extra base hits in those 21 games with 23 RBIs and a 1296 OPS. I mean,
that's insane.
It's MVP level numbers.
Crazy.
On the season, he now has an 804 OPS.
Dude, that's
he has
wild.
a 126 OPS plus. If he bumps that up another point, even though I don't really usually count his first 2 years, then he's going to have the second highest OPS plus of his career, the only one higher being that 46 game stretch that he came up in late 2019 and was just unconscious. I mean, the guy is fantastic. And if you're still out there worried about his defense, this quote might maybe look stupid in the future, but I really think you're not looking at the big picture because he's phenomenal and he's carrying them. And they're not last in the wild card anymore, which is cool. They were there for a while.
Huge. Yeah, that's massive.
We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Another good start from Barrios too, which is, I know we had talked about the fourth starter a little bit. I do think it's partly the money, but I also think this is part of the reason that they're banking on Barrios as the fourth starter is while his bad is bad, his good is still pretty good.
Totally. And his last couple starts, this start and the last start were both solid. I mean, his strikeout numbers weren't exactly there, but if he gets through 6 1/3, 1 run, I don't care. 1 earned. This game and the Baltimore game on the 5th, he was fantastic in both. So I'll take it. I don't really care if he strikes out 2 or 12, as long as he gets through 6, 2 earned, 1 earned. That's totally fine with me. And that's worth the money, I think.
Oh yeah. I mean, if he did that for 3 or 4 times in a 5-start stretch, and the other 2 weren't huge blowups, he'd have an ERA around 3. But the other ones just happen to be 8-run blowups usually. So, yeah. But the ERA, I looked yesterday at one point was at 5.7 something. And now it's at 5.07. Call me crazy, but I do think it would be big if he could finish the year. Even like it's not. I mean, he's not going to get Cy Young votes, but even with an ERA that starts with 4, it just feels better to me than 5. 4 feels
And
like
yeah,
major league starter at least.
his last 5 starts, he's got 30 and 2/3 pitched, under a 3 ERA. He's got a 2.93. The dude, he seems to be tunnel visioning to the playoffs, and that's fine with me if he just kind of bears down and gets his job done now rather than never. So Jose, it's fine by me, buddy.
Yeah, frankly, his 2 playoff starts, I believe he has 2, are about as much playoff start experience as anyone in the rotation because Gosman wasn't making it all the time, and nor was he in the rotation for all those teams. And Stripling, I believe we went over it before, had maybe started 1 game in the playoffs, or may have never actually started, I think, but has pitched in the bullpen. And obviously, Manoah has not started a playoff game. So yeah, it's nice to see that kind of clicking together at the right time, and if for nothing else, maybe building some momentum toward next season, because there's still 6 more years of Jose Barrios, hopefully wearing blue and white. You mentioned it was kind of just Vlad and Bo. Was Bo your hype
Hype
train?
train. He's my hype train. How could he not be? The
So
dude's hotter than
yeah.
hot.
So outside of Vladdy and Bo, they picked up 2. The team had 2 hits total. Um, for the doubleheader today, they're obviously going to need more. Who who are you looking toward to step up?
I'd like to see Chapman return to what he did, where he was red hot, and he raised his OPS toward 800 a little bit. He's definitely fallen off a bit since then, back to what his early to mid-year numbers were. And like on the season, I think his numbers are totally fine. And like when it's all said and done this year, you're gonna look back and say he was definitely worth acquiring because great defense at third. He's hit nearly 30 home runs. He's been a really good part of the order, but you kind of need him to step up. He's got to be an X factor in your lineup if you are going to go far this season. I mean, Teoscar, we've talked about being the guy that is the game changer in the lineup, and I still think that can be true, but I think Chapman can qualify for that as well. But he hasn't really been as good in the month of September. He's only got 9 hits in 11 games. Hasn't hit a home run in September. He hasn't hit a home run since mid-August, August 20th
Yeah.
against the Yankees. So Chapman, I'd like to see definitely pull it back a little bit because his numbers have dipped down to his OPS hit 800 on August 13th. I think it hit 800 in late July, early August as well, but like definitely dipped down since then.
Yeah, it's at 772. I mean, like you said, his overall numbers are pretty good. He has a 118 OPS plus. Last year he was an even 100. Like that's obviously an improvement, but at the same time, we're not really working off of last year at this point. Now it's like we just need go time. So hopefully, he doesn't have to be like he also got hot and was like the greatest hitter in America, not for as long as Bo, but for a week. Um, but he just has to get like a little hot. I think I agree with you. Like throw a couple doubles and maybe hit a homer in the last 4 games of this series, and yeah, change the game with your power. But that's a big. We talked about it. Game 1 was going to be huge in this series. Obviously, today is the biggest day now with the doubleheader, but it's big to get one under your belt because knock on wood, worst case scenario, you were to get swept in the doubleheader, you could still win the series because you won game 1. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But we are going to take a quick step aside and come back and talk to you about some other stuff. But right now, Bones has to tell you about bets.
BetOnline.net. That's what we're talking about. It's the number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all of the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week's games and those afterwards. BetOnline is also your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including Major League Baseball, mixed martial arts, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Bet online where the game starts.
The playoff race. The
Yeah,
playoff
man.
race.
Playoff race. Very exciting. Like you mentioned, Jays no longer last in that wild card race, though it is close. They're just separated by Tampa by half a game, and they have 4 more games against Tampa, so this could look way different by the time this series is over. But currently, it's Seattle and Toronto uh, tied at the top of the wild card, and then Tampa Bay half a game back. Like I said, Baltimore slipping 5.5 games back at Tampa Bay, and then 7 games back at Chicago. Although Chicago and Minnesota both still have a chance because the AL Central is so bad. Chicago just 3 games out of the lead in the AL Central, Minnesota 5. So they do have a chance. It's getting late, and they're going to have to make a push now, but they do still have a chance technically. Um, Although I do think that the wild card is nearly wrapped up. I don't think we're going to see huge changes there. So the dream of Baltimore beating out Tampa Bay or something is over almost.
Yeah, I,
Um,
I think Baltimore can now go into like we had a nice year mode.
yeah,
Um,
they really did though.
they did,
Um,
and good for them, but it wasn't going to happen. I mean, the only thing, because I'm going to knock on wood here, is that there are 6 more games against the Jays, and they do play the Rays, but they would have to go on quite a tear against the
and
O's.
we know they can,
Yeah, we know they can.
but Bo also is just mashing them recently. So like, come at them. But anyway, we want to talk about who would you like to see in the playoffs. This year's playoff has 3 wild card teams instead of 2, and they're not playing just 1 game. Do you like that? By the way, we haven't really talked about that. Are you a fan of the new playoff format?
I'm a little bit of an old man. Like first of all, I enjoyed the wild card game, the one
So did
game
I.
playoff. I
That was
really did
great.
like that. I'm okay with what it is now. I'm not excited about the prospect of a 7th team potentially making the playoffs, which was also thrown out there during CBA, and I don't really know the status of it right now. CBA negotiations, I meant, but I don't mind it. I mean, the Blue Jays have needed it. Like they would have been on the outside looking at. We would still be very, very unsure if the Blue Jays are a playoff team if there weren't 6 teams. There would be quite the race. So I'm
I
okay with it
guess.
because there seems to be good enough teams. Like the worst team right now in the wild card is the Rays, and on the NL side it's the Padres. So at least those are good teams. I feel okay about the teams qualifying. But if it got
Yeah.
one deeper, you never know. Uh,
I guess I'm not huge about them kind of adopting the NFL format in a way, in that now
the
you
bye.
have a well, yes, but now you also have a division winner who's lumped in with the wild cards. So like whoever's the worst division winner is now like basically a wild card team. Like it is a wild
Yeah,
card team
yeah.
because you're in the exact same position as a wild card team.
You're in the
So
wild card
right
round.
now, the Guardian, if the playoffs started today, the Guardians would play the Rays in the wild card round, and the Mariners would play the Jays. Which I don't know if I mean, we could talk about what things we like, but I guess I'm not cool about you don't get to the DS if you're a division winner.
Yeah, they've lessened with every team they add. In a way, they do lessen the importance of being a division winner because not only do more non-division winners make it, but like you said, I mean, it's good for the East because we'll sit here and complain. Last year the Blue Jays won 91 games, better than a heck of a lot of teams, but other teams are making the playoffs. So it's leveling out the playoff field at least for a really loaded East. But you never know when that's going to bite you as well. If 10 years from now, all of a sudden the White Sox and the Kansas City Royals are powerhouses, then you could be sitting there as a division winner having to play a 2 out of 3 series too. So yeah, it is definitely interesting. I do usually like about baseball how much the divisions matter, which I guess in a way for football is still the same, that people feel the division matters, but being a division winner isn't always like what it is, in terms of baseball a couple years ago. So yeah, it would be frustrating, I think, if I was a Guardians fan to think, we're battling it out for this division and then we're going to go have to play in the first round while the other two division winners get a bye.
Yeah. Which
If
I
they,
don't know. I guess they're trying to make it more appealing and more teams make it,
yeah,
whatever. I don't know. I liked it the way it was. I thought having two card teams was good, but whatever. Okay, let's talk about who we want to see. I think we kind of talked about this pre-pod a little bit to show some inside baseball, but the the first team that I think you have to think about is Cleveland, just because they have the worst record out of any team that you could be facing here. But like we both said, is they have that crazy pitching staff that in a 3-game series, I don't know if I want to see. I don't know if I want to go out there and see Bieber and Quantrill and Tristan McKenzie. Like that's a really, really good 1-2-3 they can throw at you. And in any given 3 games, you could be shut down. And even if they lose one, you still have to face a dog. But on the other side, I think you could argue the Jays have something similar in Manoah, Gosman, and Stripling, who have all had incredible years, exactly what the Jays have needed. I think Manoah would probably be the game 1 starter. I think that's who I want on the mound game 1, just because that dude has more heart in him than I think anybody on the team. And that's what I want in a starting pitcher in the playoffs. So I think pitching, honestly, maybe Cleveland has the edge probably, just because I think Stripling's fantastic. But if anybody's going to implode of those 6 people, I think it probably is him. Even though I think he's great, and that's not a slight to him at all. I just think he's the less of the best pitchers. But and then you have the Mariners, who I think might be my answer here. They're red hot and they're talented, but they are a little thin. And I don't know if I'm
yeah,
so scared of their offense. Luis Castillo is really good, and their pitching staff isn't terrible at all. But Ty France, J Rod, and Eugenio Suarez, and then like what else am I scared of? Mitch? Like, I don't know. I don't really
yeah.
care about
Henniger
Mitch.
hasn't been healthy enough, probably. Um,
Yeah, I
worth
don't even know what
noting
else they
too.
have.
I mean,
Let me
keep going through the teams, and then I'll let you.
Okay. And then you have Tampa Bay, which I do not want to see. I would not want to see Tampa Bay at all. Um, you kind of are seeing. I mean, we didn't even talk about the hit by pitch, or did we? I can't remember.
We didn't. I mean, it wasn't on purpose. I want to be clear.
No, but it was scary, and like Schneider was barking at their dugout,
Which I
and
like.
yeah, I mean, I'm all in on that. But the point is that there's animosity there, and that the Rays are a really hard team to beat, and that they'll do anything to win. Not saying they did anything dirty. I'm just saying they are a gritty team, and they're really, really good. So Tampa Bay is just not a team I want to see in the playoffs. It's like certainly one of those teams you hope somebody else beats.
Yeah.
But yeah,
They're proven winners. I mean, of the 3 options, whether the Blue Jays would play them home or away, Tampa, I don't want to face. They've won too much. They have too much playoff experience. They're not the team. So like you, I go between Seattle and Cleveland. Cleveland,
also,
what's up?
no, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, Cleveland, you certainly play on the road. So that's an interesting wrinkle to it, too. Not that, like, I think Progressive Field is the wildest environment, but playing at home is obviously better. These series don't shift. And whoever is the top seed, all the games are at their ballpark, which is an interesting part of it. So it's Cleveland. For me, if it's between Cleveland on the road and Seattle on the road, I don't know. If it's Seattle at home, I probably would take Seattle at home.
But the thing is, the thing I was going to say,
yeah,
is that Seattle on the road's a home game.
yes, but not entirely. Like Seattle at home is a home game.
Yeah,
Because
true.
the
But
playoffs, I would imagine the playoffs, they will try and make.
I was about to
sure
say they're going to
sell.
try and make sure their fans
Yeah.
are there. But if you don't think Blue Jays will be there, if Blue Jays
Oh,
fans
they'll
will be
be
there,
there.
if the Jays are in the playoffs in Seattle, they'll
Yeah.
they'll be there.
They'll be there. It's worth
So I think that's a
noting.
way better road game.
it's worth noting that Robbie Ray did not travel to Toronto when Seattle came to the Rogers Center in like June.
I wonder
Don't
if
know don't know what the status of that is.
I was just gonna say, I wonder if there's gonna be conversation about that around playoff time about guys just like you're really
Because
gonna miss the playoffs for this?
the rules,
Like,
yeah, the rules aren't going to change.
like, come
Obviously,
on,
you
man,
know,
you're really
someone
gonna miss the playoffs for that?
someone's going to go out there and say, well, they got to put an exemption in for the playoffs. And look, I'm not a political guy, and I'm not going to get into that, but I would
This is not a
assume that
politics podcast.
that a government would feel strong enough about a law that the Major League Baseball playoffs would probably not change their opinion on it. But yeah, so that it's the one variable I think to the home games to a certain extent is who's coming, you know. And for Seattle, there is clearly a big loss if Robbie Ray doesn't come again.
Yeah, because what is outside of there? I mean, Gilbert is really good.
They'll go Gilbert,
Flexen's fine.
Castillo.
Kirby's been great. Like, honestly,
They've been
that's
using
the best thing they
Flexen out of
have
the
going
pen
for them.
though. Flexen's
That's true.
a pen
Last
guy
6
now.
appearances. But still, I mean, their starters are great. Kirby, Gonzalez, Gilbert, and Ray all have fantastic numbers this season, and they have a really good rotation that frankly, is a scary one. Probably not as much as Cleveland is, but
Yeah.
still, I mean, they're a really good team. And sometimes, they're a really young team in some parts. Like Logan Gilbert's a really young guy. They do have like some good veteran leadership, but George Kirby's a young guy. And sometimes those kind of things fuel teams in the playoffs, and you just see young kids like J Rod go out there and like maybe he'll just have a crazy playoff, but I guess we'll see. But I think Seattle's still my answer.
Yeah, I was gonna say the young thing in a way kind of pushes me towards Seattle because I know there are those stories of the young guys that go out there and dominate. I also watched in 2020 the incredibly young Blue Jays. I mean, like a 21-year-old Vlad and a 22-year-old Bo and stuff. They went out there and they were not great, frankly. It was against the Rays, who were a better team. But like a lot of the time, these young guys aren't ready for that environment. And
I think you're right, but
the
I think they
leader
have
is
a good
J-Rod.
mix.
J-Rod or J-Ram. J-Ram scares me a lot more. J-Ram's made a
It's
World
true.
Series,
He has. He definitely. You're right about that.
and Terry
Um,
Francona or Scott Service.
I
Terry's
guess
gonna come out there and do something. No offense to Scott, but Terry Francona's a for sure Hall of Famer.
he is. I don't know. I guess I don't. It's tough. I don't know. I think you're right about the. I don't know. It's really close for me. I just like facing Bieber, then Sticks, then Quantrill. Like, oh my gosh! Like, I do
Tough.
not want to
I
see.
don't want to do
that.
that.
Like, I don't want to see that at all.
No.
But I guess some teams are thinking about that, like about the Jays. So, all right. Anyway, we got to move on.
So have we both locked in Seattle? We should get a final answer. I'm going to say Seattle, and preferably at home. If it's on the road, for me, it's a little bit of a
I'm going to
toss.
say Seattle as well. I'm going to go Seattle.
All right. Shoot the ads at the people.
Ads now. Okay. I forgot what we're talking about last.
I got it anyway.
Okay,
Don't worry.
go ahead.
All right. We went a little overtime anyway, so we'll go on this one quickly. Doubleheader coming up today, obviously. Game 2 is the big one because game 1, we already got the starter locked in. That's the big dog, Alek Manoah, coming up very soon. So hopefully this is some of your pregame listening. But game 2, from the reporting I've seen, specifically Ben Nicholson-Smith, of Sportsnet, writer, at the Letters podcast host, Mitch White is up because they can activate the extra guy for the doubleheader. Not guaranteed, though, that he's a starter or what he's going for. So what I'm going to ask you to do is build your ideal first 5 innings. How many innings to Mitch White? Because I assume if he's up, he's going to pitch at least a bit. And how many innings to others? And who do you want? And I can go first if you want a second to think.
I can go first. First, you start Mitch White. He goes 0 innings. You don't put him in at all. You actually throw Trevor Richards out there instead, and you do a bullpen game. That's my plan.
So you can do a bullpen game, but I think Mitch White is still going to be involved.
Pain. Yeah, no, you'd throw Mitch White for like 3 innings. and then I want to see David. I want to see Phelpsy out there. I do want to see Trevor Richards out there. Although they don't like to throw both those guys in the same game, so
Yeah, but with the
maybe
extra
not.
guy, maybe they could. They didn't have to use
True.
so much pen yesterday because Barrios went deep.
I'm actually incredibly curious as to what their strategy going into these games every time is, just because they have so much failure every time Mitch White touches the rubber. Like, I don't know what Schneider could be thinking. Like, oh my god, like we got to get 11 runs today. Like, there's just no way around it.
I think he's thinking we got to win game 1.
Like, I think you're going to see like 6 guys on the mound. I wonder
I
do
would
they call
sell out.
Merriweather up now that he's off
Merriweather
of
is up.
60 day? Okay, I
Merriweather,
wonder if they throw him. Because
he
if he's on the
started in the
roster, like
minors.
he's not going to be a late guy.
Yeah.
So like he could definitely be a bullpen day kind of guy. Just because he's one of the lesser trusted arms on the team, I think, just because he's so erratic. Like every time we've seen him play, it's like, all right, he throws 150, but he has no idea where the ball's going.
Yeah.
So I think you maybe see him for an inning. You see a lot of guys for one inning. It's that kind of thing. And then late game is whatever late game calls for. So like maybe you get a Jimmy to Romano, maybe you get a Bass to Jimmy to Romano. But I do want to see like White, Richards, Phelps to start it, I think, and then maybe Mesa.
Yeah, so I was thinking pretty much the same line as you. I was thinking like Richards for the first inning, maybe a little more. Then White covers it until the end of the 4th, and then the 5th inning goes to Phelps. That's what I hope. But I could see Merriweather for sure being swapped in as the 5th inning guy. Like you mentioned, they haven't really used Richards and Phelps both, which I kind of get. Like you still might want a length guy potentially in your pen. And although those guys have been one inning guys, they've also been length guys. But yeah, I mean, at this point, I think they're just trying to piece together whatever till the end of the year. There are a couple more off days, so they can make it so there's only a couple more of these types of starts. But I would say if they have a lead in game 1 and it's going well, they're going to sell out the top end of the bullpen, I believe, and make sure they win game 1 so that if they happen to lose game 2, it's not as big of a deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right about that. Because you can't go into a 5-game series thinking, all right, well, we need these 5 games. Like statistically, I mean, it's baseball. If you won 5 games right here, you would be on the hot streak of a century
Yeah.
going into the playoffs, which would be awesome. But I don't think it happens.
Um,
So I think you're right about that.
yeah. Yeah. 5-game sweep is a lot to ask for. 4 games would be huge still. Like absolutely huge. So we'll see what happens. A doubleheader today. So lots of baseball for you guys and us to watch. And we appreciate you making us your first listen before it. Now, if you want to check out the playoff race info, make your second listen Locked On MLB, where MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings humor, passion, and a unique perspective to the biggest stories around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. We will be back with a doubleheader recap tomorrow. But until then, peace.